My name is Christopher O'Connor. I am one of the artists represented by Portland Art Gallery. I'm here today in my studio, and I would like to talk to you about Coastal Waters number 70, which is one of the largest paintings I've painted so far in my career. I started that piece last year, and it was really interesting because I ended up spending over 4 months on that piece. It being so big, I couldn't really turn it away to the wall and hide away from it. So what was interesting about that piece was it made me push further and tunnel deeper into my series of coastal waters that I've been working on for the past 10 years. But this is almost like, in some ways, a culmination of the aesthetic that I was forming with those pieces. Coastal Waters number 70 is 64, I think, by 80 inches. And what I found fascinating about it, not just the subject matter, but as I was painting this series of pieces, what started to happen was the more detail I put into them, the more abstract it became, which is counterintuitive to how I thought it was going to go. And so what was happening was I was finding this aesthetic where I could keep pumping more detail into the pieces, and yet they were becoming more abstract. And I found that was a thread I wanted to engage with more and more. And this large piece, Coastal Waters number 70, which is going to be hanging at Portland Art Gallery, that piece allowed me, because of the size of it, to tunnel in even more in small segments. And so when I painted that piece, because of the length of time that it took, and generally I paint a piece where I pop around to different parts of the work. I cannot just stay in one piece. And that's part of because the drawing of the painting, the architecture of the piece, the composition, generally starts out to be the most important part for me. And once I had that composition in that large piece, for example, it took me a month to get that drawing sorted out onto the canvas. And once I had that in and started painting it, the lines start to disappear and the colors start to come forward, and then the forms start to engage themselves. And even though for me it starts out as a coastal water piece, as I'm painting and I actually end up getting lost in the painting. And really that embodies the spirit of those coastal waters, where a lot of the time it's reminding me of being in my childhood, where I spent a lot of time out by the beaches and the pools of water that would gather up along the rocks on the coast. And I would spend hours there just playing and imagining and wondering and putting things together in my childhood imagination. I had a quote recently that the adult artist is the child that survived. And I thought that was really a great quote, because in a way, that's kind of what it feels like in these coastal waters. You get to wander off as if you're walking along the beachfront, and you come along these rocks and you stop and you look. And initially the rocks, they draw you in, you understand what they are, but then you start to fall into this place of imagination. And the idea that over time, the things that you are feeling on the inside come out through the painting you are looking at. The rocks disappear, and this whole imaginary landscape opens up in front of you. But the representation part, the part that they are rocks initially, is what allows you into the piece. So over these 4 months, I'm engaging back and forth. Every morning I get up, I come down to my studio, my painting is there. Whether I'm in a good mood or a bad mood, I have to engage with this work. And what's really interesting is by the time you finish it, you feel like you had both a long walk with a friend and also a very challenging conversation with somebody. And I find when I look at this piece now currently showing at Portland Art Gallery, I find myself equally engaged with it as I was when I was painting it, which is very exciting for me, because to me that is one of the hardest things for me to find myself doing with a piece, is to find myself interested after I have painted it.